speaking of teams that are at sort of a crossroads, the team the Lakers played last night is in one of those positions. The Phoenix Suns spent a lot of money last season, made a lot of big deals going into last season, and wound up right around where the Lakers were. First-round team, first-round exit, got wiped out in the first round of the playoffs. The Suns responded by saying, you know what, we're going to run this back. They add Tyus Jones. We'll talk about that. But they bring back Kevin Durant. They bring back Devin Booker. They bring back Bradley Beal. They change coaches after 1 year. Like, they fire Frank Vogel 1 year into what was, I think, a 4-year guaranteed contract, and bring in Mike Budenholzer, who, of course, has championship experience in Milwaukee. Your first look at the Suns last night, Mark, what did you think?
Well, I look at them through two things. One, the head coaching changes. I'm a fan of Frank Vogel. I'm a fan of Mike Budenholzer. But as we saw last season, their issues had to do with health and availability, and also the fact that they're not a great defensive team. Now, can Bradley Beal play more than 53 games? We'll see. Are they a good defensive team? Right now, no. I think that they got to obviously find a market for Nurkic, but we'll see on that front. But I think they definitely addressed one of the other major issues last season with getting Tyus Jones, where he's a traditional point guard, even though I never sensed that there was any chemistry issues or how they iron out roles with ball handling among Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. There was a lot of struggles, especially late in the games. Their turnovers, I think they ranked 24th in the league last season. I think they only ranked 25th in threes last season. Tyus Jones, even though he's known as the best backup point guard in the NBA, he can be a game changer in that front because he's been the king of assist to turnover ratio. And as a result of that, I think that you're going to see them play at a better pace. They're going to get the turnovers down. They're going to get more quality looks. I think from that lens, they're going to be a much more well-organized offensive machine. And the fact that they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal on the team's really good too. But they still have a lot of question marks on defense.
Yes, to all those things. And look, I want to start with the defensive end. They were 13th in defense efficiency last year, which I thought was a minor miracle to pull off. To be in the upper half of the NBA with that roster defensively, I thought was an accomplishment by Frank Vogel. I looked at the starting lineup for the Suns last night. They've got Tyus Jones playing with Devin Booker, playing with Bradley Beal, playing with Kevin Durant, and who's the starting five? I'm blanking now. It wasn't Nurkic,
Mason
obviously.
Plumlee.
Mason Plumlee. He'll be the backup when Nurkic comes back into play from injury. That's a team that's going to get exploited defensively. That is a really small team. You think about it, Jones is 6'1", 6'2", Booker, 6'5", Bradley Beal, I think, was he 6'3"? Was he introduced as that? I mean, that is a small three-man wing rotation. That means Kevin Durant is your full-time power forward playing opposite, Nurkic or Plumlee. I just think they're going to get killed defensively. I think that's going to be their biggest problem going into the season. I also wonder, Nurkic is the incumbent center, but when I talk to scouts about how Budenholzer's philosophies will blend in, they point straight at Nurkic and say that's a guy that is probably not going to be a good fit with Mike Budenholzer. Think about the bigs that Mike Budenholzer has had in his coaching career. In Atlanta, he had Al Horford. In Milwaukee, he had Brook Lopez. These are three-point shooting bigs, perimeter shooting bigs. Yusuf Nurkic is not that guy. He shot 25% from three last year on about 1.5 attempts per game. So unless that changes dramatically this year, I don't think he's going to be a Budenholzer type. Now Plumlee's not that guy either, but these bigs that the Suns have do not line up with the kind of bigs that Mike Budenholzer has historically succeeded with. So, look, I agree Tyus Jones solves a problem for them offensively. He is the natural playmaker they needed. I think he takes pressure off Booker, he takes pressure off Beal, but they might have to score 120 points per game to be in some of these ones, because I just think teams are going to score on them basically at will. And look, the bench, Grayson Allen, am I the only one that thought Grayson Allen looked huge in that game? He said he's up to about 230 pounds. He looked a step slow on both ends of the floor. He finished with 3 turnovers in 21 minutes. He just did not look good out there. So maybe he'll work himself into better conditioning as this preseason goes on. But that didn't look like good weight to me on Grayson Allen. He didn't look like a better version of the guy we've seen in years past. So they're a team, Mark, I have a lot of concerns about.
Yeah, that was surprising about Grayson Allen. I thought that he was going to, look in better shape. He had a really good season last season with shooting from three. I think, sent a really good message. He and Tyus Jones are former teammates at Duke. He sent the message, hey, don't worry. Like, I'll gladly hand you my starting role to you. That meant a lot in the recruiting process. I asked the questions that we're talking about defensively to Tyus the other day, like, when you have these 3-guard lineups, how do you adjust to that against these bigger teams? And he conceded that reality, but he said, you know what, like, teams have to adjust to us too. And I don't entirely buy it. I buy it in the sense that their lane is going to be offense and gain a lot more shots, playing a bigger pace, but they need to have defensive reinforcements. I think Mason Plumlee is a competent option, but it's got to be in a backup role. He has good length. He can defend bigs, but it's got to be limited minutes. He can't be the starting center on a consistent basis. And, nor is he expected to be. That's Nurkic. But besides from Nurkic's, I think, real qualities with screen setting and passing and getting some good putbacks, he doesn't offer anything else as far as what you're saying of having any sort of outside touch or either being a lockdown defender. He can be physical in the front court, but he's not going to be rotating pretty well.
And look, we talked about the offense that Budenholzer bigs have provided. Al Horford historically has been a high-level, multi-positional defender. Brook Lopez, under Mike Budenholzer, developed into a Defensive Player of the Year player. Is Nurkic going to develop into that? I doubt it. I don't think he has the skills. Now, might we see him launching more threes? Potentially. I could see that happening with Nurkic. But this is another team that, they're in that 7 to 10 range. What were they last year? Like somewhere in that range, that bottom half of the Western Conference playoff bracket. I don't see them improving that much. And they got a full season out of Kevin Durant. They got 40 games out of those three guys playing together. Now, maybe Booker doesn't have an injury issue like he had last year. Maybe Beal is healthier, but even still, I just think defensively they're going to get shredded. I do. I think that's going to be a season-long problem with Phoenix. Like I said, them being 13th in defensive efficiency last year, I thought that was almost a miracle. Like that they were able to get that high and be that good statistically defensively. This team, I think, took a step back defensively, maybe a step forward offensively. Maybe that'll be enough. And maybe Kevin Durant's greatness can mask some of that. But man, they're going to have to score a whole bunch of points to win this year. And I don't know if I see it. Not against teams like Denver and Oklahoma City and Minnesota and Dallas, teams that are just elite at the top of the Western Conference. So yeah, we'll see.
And tie us up in a bow. I mean, obviously it's going to be a huge development, for the better. Beal's health improves, but even if he doesn't, this partly explains why they got Tyus Jones. We have a reference point last season that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker basically played their best basketball and played the right way and played efficiently, and still wasn't enough. So I'm with you that even if they are this amazing dynamic offensive team and it addresses their turnovers issues and the number of shots and the pace, I don't think that they can become, the version of the Houston Rockets a decade ago where it's like, you know what, we're just going to go all in on gain a lot of attempts and whatever else. I think the underrated part of the Rockets teams that year when they challenged the Warriors in the West Finals, they're actually a pretty good defensive team, which is not something I usually associate with Mike D'Antoni. And right here in Phoenix, they just don't have that personnel now. I mean, Kevin Durant, he can elevate himself defensively when he puts his mind to it. He can. He's got that length. But I would say in KD's defense, like he's most valuable doing what he does best with just being an efficient scoring machine. So all of a sudden put this expectation on him. It's one thing to say, hey, be a good, willing team defender. But to ask him to become one of your main defensive specialists, I just don't think is fair to him. And I think it's also a misuse of what makes Kevin Durant so great.
No, I think they're a top 10 offensive team, and I think they're a bottom third defensive team. And teams like that don't win. You're lucky to make the play-in if you're